Hello considerate viewers, I'm Leo from splendid Hamilton in New Zealand. Our people pray that your lives are full of God's bounty and love. Welcome to part 1 of our 4-episode show on vegan history. It is a pleasure to have your company as we embark on a journey to the ancient era for a bird's eye view of the plant-based diet in our history. Far from being a new phenomenon, vegetarianism and veganism have enjoyed a long and diverse history since the beginning of our sojourn on Earth. In fact, so many great names and works are associated with the plant-based diet that there are bound to be omissions in this show. But our earnest respect goes to all the individuals and groups who have contributed to this discussion. The term vegetarian was not coined until the 1800s, and the term vegan not until 1944. Before these words were invented and popularized, a vegetarian diet was referred to as the vegetable diet or the Pythagorean diet, after the preeminent Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Generally, the further back in time, the less certain it is whether a particular historical figure was vegetarian, lacto-vegetarian, ovo-vegetarian, or vegan. For the purpose of this show, we will use the term vegetarian to represent all these different types of vegetarianism where there is no certainty. Vegetarianism is believed to have its roots in ancient Greek and Indian religions. Consequently, discussions of vegetarian history usually begin with these early civilizations. Let us go beyond that today and start from the beginning of the human race. It is widely accepted by paleontologists that modern humans, or Homo sapiens, came on the scene 200,000 to 300,000 years ago. According to Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, we evolved over millions of years from the same ancestor as the chimpanzees and gorillas. Nevertheless, this common ancestor, dubbed the missing link, has yet to be found. If we had indeed evolved from a primate-like animal, our original diet would have been primarily vegetarian, since we lacked the natural design of the carnivores and omnivores of the wild. In contrast with the Darwinist theory of natural selection, an alternative theory is that God created us in His image, as the creationists believe. If this were the case, our diet would have been purely vegan from the beginning, according to the book of Genesis as stipulated by God in chapter 1, verse 30.
And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food.
Regardless of the nature of humanity's original diet, plant foods constituted a major part of our diet. This is based on the works of many experts in varied fields regarding our anatomy, such as Dr. Richard Leakey, a highly respected paleoanthropologist, as well as Dr. Milton Mills, an internist featured in the eye-opening 2017 documentary film, What the Health.
Our anatomy and our physiology is completely different from that of meat eaters. So there's really nothing that supports the idea that human beings should be consuming animal tissue. Nothing.
Dr. Neil Barnard, the popular plant-based diet advocate and Shining World Compassion Award recipient, also wrote about the subject in his 1995 book, The Power of Your Plate. Early humans had diets very much like other great apes, which is to say a largely plant-based diet, drawing on foods we can pick with our hands. Research suggests that meat eating probably began by scavenging, eating the leftovers that carnivores had left behind. However, our bodies have never adapted to it. To this day, meat eaters have a higher incidence of heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and other problems. Dear viewers, it is time for us to pause and visit the wildflowers. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to our show. If plant foods form the greater part of our diet for most of our time on Earth, how did we come to this point in history where the majority of us consume meat to the tune of 74 billion land animals and trillions of fish every year? Dr. Colin Campbell, esteemed Professor Emeritus at Cornell University and author of the China Study, the largest study ever done on the plant-based diet, proving animal foods are detrimental to our health, theorizes that humans only recently in our long history began consuming animals due to the advent of agriculture.
The birth of agriculture only started about 10,000 years ago, at a time when it became considerably more convenient to herd animals. This is not nearly as long as the time that fashioned our basic biochemical functionality, at least tens of millions of years, and which functionality depends on the nutrient composition of plant-based foods. Dr. Colin Campbell.
So too in modern times, with the introduction of animal factory farms and a great deal of misinformation about humans needing animal protein, meat production has risen by more than 600% since 1950. In this way, compassion for all life, which is the very essence of our being according to the prophets, became suppressed in our collective consciousness. Fortunately, many notable figures throughout our history have been continually reminding us of the natural and kind diet. Pythagoras from the Greek island of Samos, who lived from about 570 BC to 495 BC, openly practiced and promulgated the vegetarian diet, and has been attributed with the earliest account of animal ethics in Western philosophy. Pythagoras was an independent thinker whose influence on science, mathematics, and Western philosophy was immense. Among his many achievements, he is credited with the famous Pythagorean theorem, and was the first to propose that the earth is a sphere. He was the first Western spiritual teacher to treat women as equals, admitting them into his inner circle of some 600 disciples, which was a significant departure from tradition, as was his belief that animals are not too different from us, except for the fact that they only use internal speech. Pythagoras believed in the transmigration of the soul, famously pleading with a neighbor to stop harming a dog when he recognized in the canine's yelps the soul of a friend of his. The renowned philosopher also believed that the vegetarian diet is the healthiest diet, one that is the most conducive to peace and spiritual practice. Although none of his writings have survived, there are enough accounts of him by later writers for us to attribute this quote to him.
As long as man continues to be the ruthless destroyer of lower living beings, he will never know health or peace. For as long as men massacre animals, they will kill each other. Indeed, he who sows the seed of murder and pain cannot reap joy and love. Ancient Greek philosopher Pythagoras.
It is said that Pythagoras learned the idea of transmigration and the vegetarian diet from the Egyptians, and possibly also from Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, and the Orphic faith that flourished in Greece for about 200 years. Orphism, in turn, may have adopted the idea of reincarnation and ahimsa, or non-violence, from Jainism, a religion in which all followers are required to observe a strict vegetarian diet. Along with Hinduism, Jainism is likely the oldest religion in the world that espouses vegetarianism, going back about 5,000 years. Meanwhile, in India, another contemporary of Pythagoras, the worshipped Shakyamuni or Gautama Buddha, expounded the virtues of a vegetarian diet over the course of 40 years. In China, the venerated enlightened master Lao Tzu and the great master Confucius, also contemporaries of Pythagoras, taught oneness with nature and reverence for all life. In the Orthodox Taoist canon, which is a collection of Lao Tzu's teachings consisting of roughly 1,400 texts, we find numerous prohibitions against meat eating. For example, in Canon 0179, the Heavenly Lord's 10-precept tractate for the junior cultivators mandates,
Do not kill any animal for food. Instead, we should be benevolent and beneficial to all, including insects and worms.
In 520 AD, the Venerable Patriarch Bodhidharma, the 28th master after Buddha, introduced Buddhism to China and promoted vegetarianism. Both Chinese Buddhism and Taoism required the monks and nuns to consume an egg-free vegetarian diet. Since monasteries and nunneries were usually self-sufficient, in practice this likely meant that they followed a vegan diet. In the 7th century, the beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, disseminated the message of compassion in the Middle East. According to the Hadith, a collection of writings containing the sayings of the Prophet, he said,
A good deed done to an animal is as meritorious as a good deed done to a human being, while an act of cruelty to an animal is as bad as an act of cruelty to a human being. Do not allow your stomachs to become graveyards. The beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Haloed viewers, the prophets of our world represent the pinnacle of human and celestial wisdom. As we can see, they all advocated benevolence and non-violence towards our animal co-inhabitants. In the next episodes, we will feature excerpts from talks by Dr. Andy Mars, an expert on raising healthy vegan children and a tireless advocate for animal welfare for the past 30 years. Thank you, wonderful viewers, for joining us today. We are grateful to all the philosophers and seers past and present who have helped us further our self-knowledge. Please tune in again for the next episodes of our series on vegan history. Coming up next is the Sudangama Sutra, the 4 clear and unalterable instructions on purity. Refrain from stealing and lying, part 2 of 7 on Between Master and Disciples, right after noteworthy news. May God bless you and your loved ones abundantly.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/VEG.